Was it really that good? I'm Brian Tramel.
And from P3 Radio, I'm Richard Mulliken, joined by my co-host and best friend, Josh Briley. Say hey, Josh.
How's it going, everybody? And BT, how are you doing, brother?
Oh, man, we're doing good. And y'all are sitting in Gene's seat. I could make a fat joke about Gene, but, he wouldn't really care. But
Is it always like this?
I'm excited about having you guys. I had you ask you guys to step in and take Gene's spot for a couple of shows. So you'll be here in November, and also we'll have a show in December. I'm excited about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to do it a little bit different. We watched a couple of older shows on YouTube, and what we're going to do is do it in our format of the AEW show. So we'll do it roundtable wise. I'll ask 5 questions. I kind of revise the questions just a little bit, and we'll talk about the shows. We're going to start today talking about Continental Championship Wrestling. I want to say something real quick before we get through all of this. I picked this for a reason. The quality is horrible. And what was the date? God, I had the date.
June 18th. 1988.
1988. This was during the year that Eddie Gilbert was booking, and everybody during that time, I was getting kayfabe sheets, and everyone was really high on what Eddie was doing. It was a really good booking. We enjoyed it. But I wanted to go back and watch it and say, was it really still, like the show? Was it really that good? Also, this was, and we talked about this in text, and Josh, I know you probably know a little bit about this, but David Woods, a rich guy who kind of reminds me of what we're seeing with Tony Khan and everything, bought interests, the controlling interest in Continental or Southeastern or whatever you want to call it. And this was like normal back then for Southern promotions. What they would do is sell it to a money mart. Not all of it, but almost all of it. And sometimes all the controlling interest. And then when the money mart shit on themselves and killed the business, they would buy it back from them for pennies on a dollar.
Right.
So this is kind of what happened with this, but let's get started. Anything y'all want to say about just the Continental Championship Wrestling right now before we get started with everything?
Of honest, this was when this came out, I was 4 years old. So seeing some of this, kind of brought back some memories of like the old Memphis days and stuff like that. But Josh over here is a what is it? A savant? What is that? What, not croissant? What is that? Savant. He is a savant of old CWA and CWF and Continental because of Uncle Danny. He saw these tapes on repeat because of Danny Davis was in them, and we used to watch these, but he has a memory recall of these things that is just beyond my recognition.
Oh,
well, I remember watching this on the Financial News Network because that is one good thing that David Woods did. He got that deal from the Financial News Network that put him on a lot of cable systems across the United States. So if you were a huge wrestling fan, you had the opportunity to see that. I'm not sure how long it was on, but I definitely remember. I was young. I was
probably 5
years old when this was out, but I remember watching some during this time period. It was awesome.
If I remember right, and there'll be someone tell me, well, you're wrong, BT, and I should have did my research here, but we really just want to watch shows and see whether there's what we thought about them now. But I believe it went I want to say it went almost 3 years with David Woods. There was all kinds of stuff, and if you do a search, there's a lot of podcasts that talk about what happened. But let's get started. All right, this is roundtable format. If you haven't listened to our AEW show, we go around. I ask 5 different questions, and each one of them answers. We're going to start with Josh today. What was the best thing about the show to you, Josh?
Definitely Paul E. and Eddie Gilbert, all their video montages and promos. Everything is a package because, like you said, Eddie Gilbert was booking at this time, but both of these guys were money together, and they were super hot on the mic. Paul E., he's super young at this point, but he is still almost like a veteran on the mic. The things he was saying. He even mentioned, now, mind you, this is in the 80s in the South, and he literally tells Austin Idol, Jimmy Swaggart ain't going to help you. Jim Baker ain't going to help you. Even God himself cannot help you when me and Eddie Gilbert get a hold of you. I thought that was hilarious, man. And it popped me for real. My wife looked at me funny whenever and I just kept watching. But, I mean, they don't do stuff like that now. And it's not as genuine feeling because, I mean, when they said stuff on the mic, you felt it. And a lot of that's absent in today's wrestling.
Well, what you think, Richard? What do you think's the best thing about the show?
There was a lot of good things about this show. The greatest name ever for a jobber, Willie B. Hurt. That was an awesome name, and it popped me when I saw it.
Now that's Pistol Pez.
I know he's not even a jobber, so.
But that's the greatest jobber name ever. Was the first thing. Even if he's not a jobber, the greatest name ever is Willie B. Hurt. And if he's a jobber, the answer is yes. But Sid, with Lord Humongous being there, he was a bit. You forget how big he is, and he was as over as he was big. But I got to tell you, and I'm going to contradict myself here in a minute. But one of the best things about the show, other than a pumped-up, push-up champion of 1988, Danny Davis being in the show, was Missy Hyatt. I tell you what, she brought apparently all guys in that era, in the 90s and the 80s, to manhood with some of her comments and actions. Some that were in the business already, she brought them to manhood. But just lines like she said here, she was talking about Eddie Gilbert hurting himself. And she's like, oh, he had a golf incident. And the announcer said, well, maybe he should give up golf. And she's like, you don't know what kind of fun we have on the golf course. That's 1988. She's talking about effing a guy on a golf course and hurting his leg. It's like, if you can't get into that, like if you're not slapping the Christmas ham to that as a kid, then I don't know what brought you to manhood. So Missy Hyatt, probably one of the best things of this show.
All right. We guys you kind of touched it. My deal was it had that feel, just all the old school angles, where people actually hated the heel. I mean, you really wanted to hate and listen to Missy squealing, and the way she talked, she got on my nerves. She was really good at what she did. You wanted to hate Eddie Gilbert for what he was doing and saying. And also Nightmare versus Nightmare. That was just so fun. A crazy angle because as a Nightmare fan, for me, then they were a tag team forever. I think this was right after they did an angle where Ken came out and apologized. And it's a Tommy Rich, Eddie Gilbert. It's something that happened on Memphis Wrestling, and Eddie just used it, and he apologizes to Danny, and then he posts him, and Danny bleeds because Danny had a bandage, and I think that's what Ken was talking about. Two guys, doing interviews. The interviews were really good, and the crowd was popping for everything. You talked about the Willie B. Hurt. That match, every time they do a drop kick or do something, the crowd popped at it. And I remember being in those, not those towns, but like Nashville was really just a packed arena, and you could do a drop kick, a punch, or whatever, and the crowd would actually pop for it. Worst thing about the show, Josh?
I'm just gonna have to say the Sika squash match. I mean, it kind of really didn't serve any purpose. I mean, I did get excited that Yoko was out there in Sika's corner. I thought that was pretty sweet. But you could have had Yoko wrestling or something because he was still a year or two in the business at that point, and he was probably eager to be on TV. But Sika, he was a grandpa at that point, and it just wasn't a good match. He ate the guy up. He ate him alive, and nothing happened. It was quick. I don't know if it was a time filler or what, but that was the only thing that I really just glanced at my phone while I was watching it because I had no interest in it. It didn't really serve a purpose. So that's
right. I could see that. That's kind of why not, huh? The only thing I could see is that they were trying to get over Ernest Angel. So that's all I could think of on the microphone there. Worst thing about the show.
Now, I know I said that she was my favorite just because of the oozing of sexuality and everything, but Missy Hyatt's first 5 minutes on the show were just dreadful. Even my wife was listening in the background in the kitchen, and she's like, oh my God, she's terrible. She's like, is she doing one of the boys? I'm like, well, actually she is. But there's only 2 matches on the card. Detroit Demolition's accent proves that he's from southern Detroit, maybe Detroit, Alabama. Didn't like the back and forth of the action in the interviews. It seemed like they were doing a show like a pickup basketball game. They would throw an interview here in, and then they would throw a match here. And then, like Josh said, the main event was a squash match. And I was like, well, you put the tag match on first, which could have been your main, but then you have, Sika beating up a guy that no one knows. But the most awkward thing on the show was when Jeff Jarrett and Willie B. Hurt went out to the crowd bushwhacker style and abducted a child and brought it out and held him up awkwardly as he looked around like scared. And a few people cheered, and then they returned him back to the wild at which he came. It was the oddest thing ever. And
but Missy was hot on the mic.
Yeah.
She said, "That kid's crying. Look at it."
And Missy was like, what are they doing? And I was like, I have to agree with you, Missy. What are they doing? They just abducted a child. This is illegal. And if they would have taken him like 3 blocks down, it would have been across state lines. It's just a terrible all the way around thing.
Some of the interviews, like the interview with DI, which the drill instructor, I love that gimmick. I know it's just Sergeant Slaughter, but didn't he say something about a watermelon?
He sure did. He said,
"Yes, I'm like
my job." So.
He called him a melon eater.
Yes, I was like, really? So I
That's
really like this.
Who was that? The guy from Portland, Colonel De Beers. What he was doing?
Right. That was the worst thing on the show for me. The backstage interviews were kind of, except for Ken and Danny, I really liked that, but they's kind of weird. I think also because we only got 30 minutes of the show, I think maybe a squash match was knocked out of there, but I also know that they didn't show any of the, we're coming to towns. They cut that out real quick. So you're looking at probably cutting out almost 10 minutes of what we could have seen. I don't know what it was, but that was probably the only thing. I just, when it comes to this old Continental stuff, I'm just a huge fan, I guess. All right, guys, we'll take a quick commercial, and we're going to be right back. All right, thank you to our sponsors. Back with Josh and Richard from P3 Radio. Josh, we mentioned Uncle Danny, and if people didn't listen to our Patreon, and if you're not a Patreon member, we actually talked about that. I just wanted to throw that out there. Danny Davis is your legit uncle, right?
Yes, sir. He sure is my mother's brother. And it was awesome growing up because I literally had a superhero as my uncle. Some people got rapists as uncles.
What?
Or whatever. But I had a superhero as an uncle. It was awesome.
Well, he didn't love you as much as those other uncles then.
Hey, that guy across the street was not my uncle, guys. What the hell?
I want to take this time, to say that we do have an interview with Danny Davis on our podcast.
That's right.
Called P3 Radio, all one word. You can find that on iTunes, where you find Shooting the Shiznit. Just type in P3 Radio, and you'll see Josh and I's face there. Scroll down, you'll see our interview with Danny Davis. He was a great sport, answered a lot of questions for us, and I had a good time with him.
It was to me, it was like the turning point. I've said this before about y'all's podcast. It was kind of like the turning point. It's like, we're going to do this wrestling interview, and it's going to be one of the best ones we've ever done, but then we're not even going to talk about wrestling anymore.
No, that was like
that was kind of the turning point. So if you really want to jump on P3 Radio, you're like I told y'all personally off the air, like not in the studio. The last 2 episodes have been just absolutely hilarious, and I mean spitting. I almost said spitting shit, but I really wasn't spitting shit. I was spitting stuff out of my mouth. I was just laughing, and you guys always seem like 2 old friends that just sat down. 2 of my old friends and just shoot the shit, and it's just so funny to listen to y'all. I even sent y'all the latest episode. Even has an article I sent y'all, which was just crazy. All right, let's go. MVP. Who was the MVP of this episode, Josh?
I'm going to have to say, again, Paulie and Eddie Gilbert, because it was the focal point of the show, and they showed so many promos and so many VTRs about what happened. Even me not watching or not, watching the before, the show before this one or the show after, or, however many shows before this, the angle was going. you kind of got what was going on. And Eddie Gilbert was such a good booker, and he had all those cool, like you said, the Nightmares feud was going on at that time, and a lot of other good feuds was going on as well. Jerry Stubbs, it was Mr. Olympia, and he was leaving town or whatever, but they explained what was going on with that too. And but I don't think that it would have been as hot if Paul Lee wouldn't have been in the mix and being the manager and being so good on the mic like he was. So, but I got to say both of them. They're tag team champions of the MPV.
All right. Yeah. Just great stuff from Eddie Gilbert. So what did you think? What MVP there, Richard?
Well, my MVP in wrestling, it's not, it's not quantity, it's quality. And I look at who are your most over baby faces, and by far the most over baby faces on this show are definitely Humongous, Lord Humongous, who came out and did nothing, got a huge reaction, and a little bit biased here was Danny Davis, was looking like Mr. Arnold Classic himself that day in a tank top, and like I said before, looking like the push-up champion of 1988. The crowd was all over him. He could have done nothing wrong, even though, and I hope he doesn't hear this and beat me down for it later, interview wasn't that great. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't that great. But I mean, he could have come out there and been like, "We're gonna make you eat your own shit." And they were like, "Yeah, make him eat his own shit." And Danny was just like, he was going off the cuff, and it wasn't the greatest interview, but the people didn't care. They were behind him. So my MVPs are a tie between Lord Humongous and Danny Davis.
And the Lord Humongous thing, I did not. I loved it, and I actually put. The crowd is nuts right now, and he just walked out. That's part of the whole gimmick. And them putting him as a babyface was unique. I mean, it really was, because he was always healing in Memphis. So I'll have to go kind of with Josh here. Eddie Gilbert interview was really good. Him just knowing that he had his hands on this, and that Paul Lee was part of it too. They were co-booking or whatever. Eddie. There's always been this story about Eddie as a kid, being part of the business forever, but he would actually book when he was a kid and make these matches, and then he would cut wrestlers out of magazines, and he would glue them to cards so that you'd see, like, Sammartino against Jerry Lawler or whatever. So this was really what he wanted to do. He wanted to book. He said it many times to one of my close friends that, when he got out of the business, that's what he wanted to do, just book instead of wrestle. And you could see so much fun. I mean, being a Nightmares, Mark, and I've said this is the second time I said that, but I really am, the idea that he would pit them against each other, we never wanted to see that, and I never wanted them to split up, but he made it to where I wanted to watch it. I wanted to see what the hell he was doing. I don't think you could have ever split Stan and Steve up from Memphis, or, the Rock and Roll, or anything successfully, but he did make it exciting, and like you said, Paul Lee, guys, I've known Paul Lee forever, and when he turns on, he is that person that was on that interview, and he's so good. So, quick Paul Lee story. Paul Lee, the first night, on a Friday night in Blythe, Arkansas, that he was in the Memphis territory, Jerry Lawler, I'm taking photographs at ringside, and Lawler says, "Do you know who that is?" And he was Paul Lee Dangerously or Dangerly or whatever, and I said, "It's Paul Heyman." And Heyman went off on me at ringside. "Who the fuck are you?" Blah, blah, blah. Then he whispered to me, "How did you know me?" And I told him I had bought one of his photo books. He sold photo books. And I had bought one of them. And then he seen me at a convention one time and just started screaming, "There's that motherfucker! There's that motherfucker!" And then he said, "You're the one that knew who I was." I was like, "Yeah." So just a great, he's always been fan friendly, and during this time, those guys were kind of really ahead of themselves when it come to the smart fans and knowing what we could do as part of that community, because they were really open to having conventions and all. In their mind, that's what they were going to end up doing. So yeah, Eddie Gilbert Booker, top heel being, with Paul Lee. All right, guys, what would you want to see after this show? All that stuff building up, what's really something you would like to see?
Personally, I would love to see more Humongous because, like Richard said earlier, when he came out there.
Wait, now I need to do some post editing. I'll put the War Machine theme song right here when you start talking about that. So, go ahead.
But yeah, when Humongous came out, the fans went fucking bananas.
What do you mean by came out?
Oh my God! Is this where we're going?
Is that what
with
happened with Humongous? I missed that whole thing. But anyways, go ahead.
He comes out to the ring, and he is just he looks like a freaking G.I. Joe action figure. And you could see money dripping off of him. And I loved all of the angles, except for maybe the he's my brother thing that happened later on.
I like that too.
But Sid was so over with me as a kid, and I thought the Humongous thing was awesome because of the fucking Road Warrior movie.
Right. I did too. I love the gimmick. Love the song too. So, what would you like to see after this show, Richard?
Like Josh said, more Humongous. Maybe get him some action in. Maybe get some heat on Humongous. Try to get some heat on him. Hit him with a car or something. I don't know. Do something to get heat on Humongous to where he's not just the end all be all. The baby faces are hurt. Where's Humongous? He comes out limping and they hit him with a crowbar and it doesn't phase him. Something to give you more action with Humongous. Plus, I would like to see more of an interaction with Ken Wayne and Danny Davis. After this week, I would have liked to have seen something like Ken interfere in Danny's match or something like that, just to continue that on. Now, I don't know what happened. Josh probably does. But that's just what I would like to have seen going forward from here.
Right. I tell you what, here's what I really liked about, and we watched Memphis also, which we'll have it in December, is that I was excited and wanted to see the big show that they keep talking about. There's going to be this match, there's going to be that match, that's what I really, and the thing about it is why I think I really like that part of it, is that you really wanted to hate the heel and watch the babyface go over. Or if you were a heel fan, you really wanted to see what the heel was going to do. There was some kind of feeling there and the building for the shows there that really made me want. I just wanted to keep watching it. That's the thing about it, and wanted to see what's going to happen next week. So I think that's what what's missing really on some of the stuff. We watch AEW and they're probably lots better when it comes to doing all the crazy, wild, crazy moves. And then when we see an old school angle, we're just like, oh man, he did this. I think that's part of it. I think as a smart fan or someone in the know, I still want to see the person hate the other person, or the person, the babyface get beat up. I still want to see all that, even though I know what's going on. So, all right, so we're at the end here, and so I'm going to ask Josh first. Was it really that good?
Yes, it honestly was, man. I had so much fun watching this whole episode. Like I said, the Sika match was the only one where I was just, let me check my email. But as a whole, top to bottom, it was awesome.
What about you, Richard? Was it really that good?
When I watch these things back, I always try to do the infomercial test. And when I say that, I mean, you ever seen an infomercial come on and say, forget everything you know about slipcovers. Forget everything you know about wrestling. I'm trying to see this wrestling product through the eyes of a scared 4-year-old child being lifted up by Willie B. Hurt. And as I'm looking at this show, I have to look back at it and go, in my mind, knowing what I know where wrestling goes and knowing where I know where wrestling was at the time, forget the fact that I've seen a live wrestling show and I can forgive the fact that this isn't a live show and they could have edited around some of the crappiness. As a kid, I'm going to want more action. And the action that was provided wasn't that great. To a kid, this was going to be like reading a book. This was not as good as seeing a live action movie with the Avengers. This was reading about the Hardy Boys and not the Jeff and Matt. This is the boring ones with the magnifying glass. So in my mind, this show, and I know I'm going to get some heat from this from Josh and you probably, but in my mind, this show wasn't really that good.
Josh, there's a reason why when we kick him off of P3 Radio that me and you actually have a show together. Was it really that good? Yes, it was for me.
I'm booing the shit out of you, Richard. I'm booing the shit out of you.
I really loved Continental. It was one of those things. I remember when we were kids and we were watching this, we had no idea what the fuck the Avengers was, Richard, except for what was in the comic book. But yeah, I like this show. This is one of the few guys that I can truly say that I would want to watch all the stuff after it, before it. Let's go back to it, and I really enjoyed it. Sometimes me and Gene just shit on everything that's there, and I also noticed something in the very first part of the show with the tag team match. They actually did psychology with the hot tag and everything, and I always think about that kind of stuff, because if you watch stuff me and Gene's watched, World Class, they didn't even know what psychology was. But yeah, was it really that good? As good as I remember. Did I really enjoy Eddie Gilbert's booking? Hell yeah, it was a good show. Guys, thanks for joining me. Same bat time, same bat channel, even though Richard stole that from me. On the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be there. And as everyone knows, I love my mama.